Marcel, welcome to the show. Really, really good to have you here. How are you doing?
Hello, guys. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I'm doing pretty well. I'm looking forward to talk about sim racing.
Well, you're busy. You're busy. I'm really glad that we've managed to find this time because you seem to have one of the busiest calendars as an esports pro, which is a good sign, right? As an esports pro, especially in sim racing, being busy is good.
Yeah, I think that's what we want. Like when it's happening, when the races are there, and you are really busy. There are so many races. Actually, you are feel really tired. But when
Mm.
you have like off season and you have a month or 2 months break, you have the feeling that you want to go back to the sim again and you want to do this. So last year was pretty busy, but I was enjoying a lot. I had some good results, so I think it was going well.
So for those who don't know, you've done a huge amount, right? So you raced for R8G, which is Romain Grosjean's team. You competed in the Le Mans Virtual Series. You won the first ever ESL R1 title, which is, you know, basically an historic event in sim racing, right? ESL R1. I think we all agree that it's kind of hit the scenes with a huge splash and isn't going anywhere for a little while. There's a lot of investment behind it. So if, let's say, that continues for the next 20, 30 years, that you won the first ever one of those. You were winning the Formula E Accelerate series before the final, but it clashed with ESL. And so, you were winning, but you couldn't make the final. And then you ended up second or third for Formula E. So, there's two different games there already. So you're different games, different series, different countries. You've been in Saudi Arabia the whole time. How the hell do you stay focused when you have so much going on?
That's a pretty good question. I want to know myself also. I don't know. That part of the year, it was being pretty busy, but I was like when I saw that we're gonna have Formula E, I really wanted to do it because I really enjoyed the last, like in 2022, I was really enjoying it and I wanted to do it, and I still decided to do next to ESL Rensport. But yeah, when we saw, for example, Freddy was coming to the race,
Mm.
we were like, I think everyone knew that he's gonna be pretty strong, and on that first round of the Formula E, we had a pretty good fight with him. Which, like on the truck, we didn't have many fight, but all the time he was at my back. Like basically,
Mm.
the gap wasn't more than 1 second, I guess, through 40 laps or something.
That's
And it was,
intense.
yeah, but it was pretty amazing, and I enjoyed it. And I feel that part of the year was probably like the most focused for me because
Mm.
doing ESRN sport, which is already really demanding and requires a lot of preparation and everything. And next to that, I could be like successful in the Formula E also. I think that was probably the best period of the year for me
Mm.
in sim racing.
How did you find the Formula E Accelerate series generally? Because it was a quite a complex structure. There were heats and rounds, and you were grouped into certain brackets, and it wasn't like the standard kind of racing format that we're used to as sim racers, where it's essentially just a league system over
Yeah.
a number of weeks or months, right? It was a real kind of innovative system that was almost imitating kind of what we see in more traditional esports, right?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, definitely in Formula E, I think qualifying was really, really different than other racing norm, like let's
Mm.
say normal or like ordinary racing series, let's say, because on that we had like 8 or 10 minutes of qualifying, but like in two groups. Then you made it to the duels stage. So basically, you had to do, I don't know, a lot, like 7, 8 perfect laps in a row, let's say, to
Mm.
to stay in. Uh, and for some reason, it was kind of interesting for me because on the ESL we have one-shot qualifying, and Formula E was completely different because we had so many tries. And on the Formula E, I felt like for some reason I was struggling a bit to put together a good lap, even though I had like 8 or 10 minutes for it. And on the ESL, we just had the one lap, and that's always
Mm.
like I don't know if the pressure is different or something, but I was struggling a bit more in Formula E qualifying for some reason.
That's interesting, knowing that it's not all or nothing on your one lap. It's you've got a few bites of the apple, right? So you've got a few goes to get it right. Perhaps is psychologically that's a different challenge to approach than, right, you've got one lap, go out, you've got to get it right? Or is it a case of you've got one lap, so leave a little in the tank? Like how do you approach a one lap qualifying?
Uh, I think to be honest, when I start the lap, it's pretty much I'm just really being really excited. I can really feel even my heartbeat is like going fast.
Mm.
And honestly, I'm just really, for example, there is Hockenheim, and the turn one is like a roulette,
I love
especially with the
Hockenheim.
especially with the Audi car, because if you don't hit the curb well, you ending up having
Mm.
an off track and your lap is gone already. So you're like,
Mm.
basically you are just like trusting in something that the turn one is gonna be good and then make the lap good. But I think all of the on the other circuits, it's basically the same. You have to have kind of definitely being confident that's what you are doing, because you cannot having doubts that like if
Mm.
it's gonna be good or not. You have to go for it because you have
Mm.
that one lap, and you have to take the risk. That's what I think, and especially for me in the second season of ESL, like the fall season, on the first part of the season in the quarterfinals qualifying, which is the very first one, I was being, I think, pretty good. I could do like 4 or 5 poles out of 4 or 5 races, something like that, and that was going really far for me for some reason, and
Mm.
I didn't feel the pressure was affecting me. But and the other day when there were semifinals, sometimes I was struggling a bit more,
Mm.
which is hard to understand, but for some reason it was like that. It's I don't know. The pressure should be more, I think, on the quarterfinal, because if you miss it, then you cannot even make to the
Yeah,
semifinal.
of course. Yeah.
And for the semifinal, I felt everyone could improve a bit, but I just could keep the level of quarterfinal, which wasn't bad. But sometimes it was around P6, which is never safe, to make it to the final.
Yeah. 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 No, it's interesting because actually at ESLR1, because the game Rensport was obviously brand new, there were no veterans. There wasn't like a Rensport crowd that was just moving from one season to the next. And so Rensport brought together people who were from different backgrounds, different games, whether that's F1, if you look at like someone like Sebastian Job, or if it's ACC, or if it's ACC and F1, so Jana Otmir and James Baldwin. Like there was a lot of crossover with all these communities all coming together for ESL. Now
Yeah.
you obviously did you did the Formula E and you did Le Mans Virtual, which was both on R Factor 2. So how do you think that coming from R Factor 2 to ESL R1 was an advantage? Because I don't think there were that many from R Factor 2 necessarily, or didn't seem to have the same pedigree in R Factor 2 that you did. Do you think your R Factor 2 experience helped you for Rensport specifically?
I can say yes, probably, because Rensport, what I feel, in Rensport, to be fast, you definitely need to have, especially on one lap, you need to have uh, a bit of slip angle of the car. You have to have a bit of slide all the time. You have to keep it in slide, but not too much and not too less, because none of them is fast. Just the middle way is the fastest. And I don't know if how much you know, like, or how much you drive R Factor 2, but R Factor 2 is kind of similar, that you until a point you sliding the car a bit always. Because I know, for example, from iRacing, at least when I was driving iRacing, it was many years ago, but that was pretty much, you couldn't really have slide on the car. You couldn't really drift, but on R Factor 2 and even on Rensport, I feel like it allows more drifting, let's say like that. So probably it was helping for me. But still, Rensport is really, I feel it's really unique, how the car behaves. So maybe it's a bit closer to R Factor 2 than to ACC or iRacing. But I'm not sure, because I definitely have the most experience on R Factor 2. I have I definitely I'm playing on it since like 8, even more, like 10 years probably, something like that. So I have the most experience on it, and for me, Rensport is still different, but with some stuff is kind of similar.
Interesting. So it sounds like almost like the fundamentals are quite similar, but then there's some characteristics which are different. Like, of course, it's no secret that Rensport had a load of accusations made about it, that it was taking code from R Factor 2 and the tire model and bits and pieces, and it was all a bit shady. That we didn't really get kind of an answer either way, whether that did happen or didn't happen. And we'll probably never know. But it sounds to me like there are significant differences between the game in terms of the way it feels, the way it handles, even if there is some kind of like underlying similarity. But given that we're all trying to simulate, or all games are trying to simulate motorsport, it would make sense for there to be some kind of underlying similarity between all the games. Because if they're all totally different, well then,
yeah, exactly.
Obviously, someone is wrong.
yeah, definitely. Like, which is the best way? I think probably. I don't know. To be honest, I have some experience on ACC, and I pretty much like ACC, even though I don't have real racing experience. I never drove GT cars, never drove GT3. But for me, some reason, ACC feels pretty good. How the car behaves on the track, what I see on the track, and how the game itself looks. Also, I pretty much like R Factor 2, but maybe in R Factor 2 I felt like the sliding is a bit too much probably, or maybe it could be. And iRacing, it's pretty much, I guess, gripping much more. But if you see like most of the real drivers on iRacing, I guess, so maybe we can say that that's probably the closest to real life. It's really hard to.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think every single one of the games has at some point or another cited a real world driver that has said that their game is the most like the real world. And the other thing is, these physics models, they're always changing, right? So if the physics models are changing, i.e. the world is changing, it's obviously never exactly right, and it never will be exactly right. But then maybe that's part of the beauty of sim racing. It would be a bit boring if every single game felt exactly the same. So it's kind of a perk of gaming, that you can have these kind of different characters. It's like that. I talk about it sometimes on the podcast, where I talk about how in sim racing you have like a number of layers that all work together to create one kind of unified experience. And that's, the hardware that you're using, the settings, your hardware settings that you're using on that hardware, which is different to another person's, the hardware settings in the game that will be different to another person's, the game, which is different from game to game, like as in the physics models are different, and then the track conditions and the temperatures, and so you have so many variabilities to be able to create exactly the same experience is almost impossible. And actually, I was thinking about this recently, because often on the podcast I'll point out to, if we have, when we have esports drivers come on the show, I'll say, well, you do this game and you do that game, is that challenging, being able to jump from one to the other? And often the answer is not really. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but then you work it out. And actually, what I think I'm coming to realize is that's because that's just racing. Like, you could be in a real world car and you go from track to track to track, setup engineer to setup engineer, different tire compound, regulation changes every single year. The feel of your real world car is always going to change every time you go from one track to another. Like, even
absolutely,
I always get a bit embarrassed talking about it, but I did a bit of real world racing in very big inverted commas in the enduro car series. I went to Donington a few times, and the car felt different every single time. And there's really not that much you can change on a 4KA, right? And it's the same tires. But then, so then, it kind of makes sense that if you're a racer, you're constantly adapting to subtle changes in the feel of the car. And so going from one game to another is just another variability to adapt to.
Yeah, I think how you describe it, I absolutely can agree with it. Even though I thought like I don't have real racing experience, but I think in real racing, even if you talk about F1, there can never be the same two conditions on even though next to each other, like lap, let's say 50 or lap 51. Everything can be different, always something. And I think in real world racing, what I think about it is like you really have to have a good, let's say like adopt fast to everything. Because even we're talking about like, let's say like truck racing or circuit racing, but the conditions I think never really the same. And in the simulators, what I think, let's say what I have experienced the most, for example, R Factor, you have to, or even on transport, let's say land transport now, but for example, you have to brake all the time on every quali lap. Let's say you have to brake all the time the same spot. If you miss, you're losing a bit of probably that that kind of adapting fast is not really that, because every lap you have to do the same braking, everything, and probably like that's what sim racing could be better if it would be a bit more like let's say the car in one lap would stop here and the other lap would stop a bit different, and you would have to adopt, which is actually a bit there in Ransport. But I don't know if it's like because of the brakes behaving differently or just you braking, I don't know, one millisecond later or anything. So I don't know maybe where it comes from, but that's how I see it. Kind of
interesting. Yeah, I guess in real world racing you have that kind of unknown element. There's always that element of random. Of you hear somebody coming on a driver coming over the radio saying the brakes feel a bit strange, or some kind of issue that you just can't predict, and you don't see that as much in sim racing. But I guess at an esports level, I don't know how you'd manage to build that into a championship where there's random issues that drivers are going to face. That feels a little unfair.
Definitely, I think definitely. For example, like about this, which happened, it was on the Sweden event, and it unfortunately happened to my teammate Shri, but it was basically like he was really unlucky because his rig was really not working properly. So let's say that he had that kind of technical issue, and it was ruining like a lot of his chances on the final day, and he was definitely not happy. And I think even if it would be in the game, the mechanical issue and like technical issues, I think it would be really somebody like, if it would happen with me, I would feel it unfair. Why it's not happening with anyone else, But in real racing, it's there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What would be better to have it like look like more real life, but at the same time, some drivers would have a breakdown probably that it's happening with them, So
it's a moral conundrum, that one, because I feel like if sim racing will never perfectly simulate the real world, but at least we can remove mechanical errors. Maybe it's like we've got to have a pros and the cons. We don't just want cons and cons of. We don't want to just be like not as good as motorsport in every respect when we have very good opportunities to be better than motorsport. And not introducing mechanical breakdowns is an opportunity to be better than motorsport. So why on earth would we not build that into the game? I.e., the cars will always perform perfectly, because we may as well take the benefit of the fact that we're sim racing rather than in the real world of motorsport. So I want to talk a little bit about the competitions themselves, because you've done a few high profile competitions now. So we've spoken about ESL R1, which is this huge production stage show, obviously done by ESL, who are experts in their craft. You've got Le Mans Virtual, which is one of the most iconic racing series on the sim racing calendar. It's most people's highlight, I would say. And then you do the Formula E Accelerate esports series, which of course is following, which is officially endorsed by Formula E, which is a huge global brand. So you've done 3 huge series, obviously, and you've done more as well, but I'm just using those 3 as an example. How different did they feel to participate in terms of your interaction with the series and the organizers, and virtual versus LAN? Like which ones do you enjoy the most and why?
LANs, I would say LAN. For some reason, I don't know. I like LAN events. I like to be with the drivers. I like when we see each other, we are there, we can talk. And for some reason also I feel when, for example, we are racing and there are like cameras around us, probably people around us, because in Munich and also Sweden, we had some crowd also, there. And actually I was enjoying it, because if I am at home, I feel like that it's just only me, the PC, I'm alone in my room, nothing else is happening. And probably it's worse for my mind I'm being really focused. But if something is happening around me, it can maybe distract a bit and releasing some stress from my shoulder, and probably that's why I like a bit more LAN events. But what I felt also then on LAN events, I think I could always perform better than online season, especially
soak up that atmosphere.
Yeah, I don't know. I just somehow I just, even at home I can have like the flow, but there, if especially like on the Munich LAN event, the major in June, I just really had like the flow. I really got it, and lap times were coming. I wasn't
Mm.
thinking like to where to break, where I have to break. It was coming everything from itself, so natural. It was just happening, and lap times were there. I was all the time up there in the top three. So definitely that was my strongest LAN event. I think the Munich one.
So you
Uh,
truly experience that kind of flow state. A lot of high performing athletes will talk about achieving the flow state where everything else seems to melt away and they become at one with, in this case, the car and the track, and everything goes quiet and you just achieve this kind of flow state. So is that it's almost like a trance, they say. Is that something that you've achieved in sim racing?
I think hopefully I was close to that. That's how I can describe it. I don't know if I completely achieved it or if I completely had it through a lap, but definitely there were laps
Mm.
or moments, or not even, especially I can mention, I mean, probably the Munich one, where I was just not really like thinking anymore on it. I was just doing it from like uh, how to say that, like it was just coming from itself, and I was really, and on those moments you really don't have to say like you are just not thinking on if the braking is gonna be good, because if you start to thinking on it, that's what I feel sometimes. Let's say my legs started shaking on, or on the throttle.
Mm.
If I'm thinking too much on it, like where I should add throttle, where should I release the throttle and stuff like that. But I think if I was close to it, it was definitely the Munich event, and I think that's what everyone wants to have, because from the whole ESL grid, I can claim that I think a lot of people, probably the whole field, I'm not sure, but a lot of people can be on pole or can win races. But it
Mm.
depends a lot, I think, on the mental state or your mental ability, let's say, in some situations that how you can deal with, I think, pressure, how you can deal with one lap qualifying, and how much you can be focused on the race, that to go away a bit, try to push or what's the best, So I think so many drivers are able to win the race or being on pole, but so many tiny things are just like deciding these
Mm.
factors,
It's
I
interesting.
think.
You seem to have developed a huge bank of experience at the highest levels of sim racing esports. Your trophy cabinet is enviable. It's you've got some incredible accolades to your name. But where did this all start? Like, how long ago did this become your thing, like your identity? Like, where what was your first interaction with racing and racing games?
I think we can go back to 2000 and I don't know, 5, 6 probably, where I was
Okay.
like, I born in '99, so this was like I was like 8 years old, 6, 7, 8 years old, and the first game I was playing on as a racing game, probably it was Need for Speed Underground 2, which was with keyboard, of course, and like, but that's
Hmm.
where racing, I think, got to me, and since 2008, I'm doing sim racing on hobby level. Like we had I think, a pretty cheap like Logitech Formula Force EX wheel, which could turn on the 90 to the left, 90 to the right, and it was
Yeah.
around 2000. It was around 2008, and it was just a hobby, but I was really interested in it, and I all the time I like to play on those games. So it was my goal also, that to improve my sim racing, let's say, skills, or also the equipment in the same time. So I can say that basically I was doing it like for 12 years on hobby level, and from 2020 2021 it got to be, I think, something called professional, or
Mm.
when I really started to focus on it, like take it seriously, and like uh I was just focusing on it, absolutely.
And what happened to make that switch?
Uh, I think in 2020, when sim racing got really popular, because when the COVID, like the pandemic happened, and everyone got stay at home, and like I think sim racing got to be, I think sim racing got to be a bit more popular, because it's got to be more interesting, I think, for people, and that's when big races, as I see big races started to happen, or probably with more prize money, let's say, and and it's not because of the prize money or anything, but I saw a future in it. I saw that if I can do it professionally, probably this can be my job, and I just can focus on it. And at that time, I was working at a bakery, and at the beginning of 2021, I decided that I'm gonna leave the work and I'm just fully focused on sim racing. And I think it happened probably the best time, this decision, because at that time the BMW M2 series were going on R Factor 2, and I was having so many great fights with Erhan, who is my teammate right now, but he wasn't at that moment, and we were kind of having some great rivalry on track.
So you were you were a solo driver, independent, not part of a team at that stage.
Varga Sim Racing was the team before RNG.
Okay, yeah, right.
It was Varga Sim Racing. It was a smaller team, but I joined there at the end of 2020, and
that was non-professional, non. Or was it paid?
No, there was no salary. Yeah. There was no salary for that. Actually, I got a great GPU. Back then it was 3070 Ti. I got a great GPU from them, and it was helping me a lot to continue my journey, or like do the sim racing, you know. But that was the time when I joined Varga. I met with Jiri, with my current teammate still. But yeah, like on the BMW stuff, racing the championship, I was realizing when I was fighting with Erhan that sometimes I could beat him, you know, sometimes he was beating me. And I knew at that time he is definitely one of the best. Still, he's one of the best of sim racers, and that gave me some boost for the future. And that's where probably, because he was racing at RAG, that's where probably RAG like started to look on us, on me and Jiri, and they searched us around 21, summer of 21, and that's how I joined to them. That's how we joined to them, and yeah, since then I am an RAG driver, and yeah,
which is incredible. What was it like, kind of that first introduction to a real professional, well-known, funded team like RAG? Like, was it strange, kind of, you know, that first week at work and having to sign forms and go to your first team meetings? Like, tell us what that was like.
I think it wasn't, let's say, it wasn't like strange or something, that it wasn't that it's basically what I remember for it wasn't that surprising, but it made me really happy when they searched us, that if we want to join into their team, because that was our first professional contract. But like started working for them at the end of 21 and the beginning of 22. It was probably what I felt, that I have to now I have a professional contract and I still have to bring great results. And at that time the VCO racing series were going, and I think I showed a really strong performance on that, and it was a really great first race with the team. That's what I remember from those years or those days. You know, I didn't really feel like it got to be something really special. You know, that's like something would change around me. It was feeling really natural. I was really happy that I have the contract now. I'm doing it as a job, so I think it just probably gave me boost for the whole thing.
Yeah, and I guess joining an organization like that and it feeling natural probably explains a large part of your character and your kind of ease with racing, and your sense of getting a position, getting a drive where you felt very much like you belonged there, like you deserved that drive. It wasn't, there was no sense of like, oh my god, like I need to make sure I don't mess this up, you know.
Yeah,
like there's a natural confidence.
Yeah, it was there. I was let's say I was a bit stressed or excited that especially like my first proper racing event for them, that was I think the VCO, and I knew I have to perform. Of course I knew I have to perform, but I was trusting in myself on that level that I knew I can do it also, but still there was some stress or some pressure from that. But it's definitely after the 2021 season where we won with Jiri, we won the Virtual Endurance Championship on R Factor 2, and I could show some great results on the BMW Championship. It wasn't like, you know, that surprising that the contract arrived. I was happy for it, but somewhere I was expecting also that after this probably a team or two is gonna come and try to get us, and that's what happened. So yeah, it was pretty natural and pretty great.
Yeah, it must. Yeah, I can't imagine the feeling of kind of having a few. You said there was a few teams that approached you. Why did you choose RAG?
Because they were the first. they
Right. Okay.
they came.
I
They
thought you were
came.
gonna say. I think you'd be like, well, I just really resonated with their story, and I've been a huge Romain Grosjean fan, and I love what they stand for.
No, definitely, it was absolutely like a huge thing for me that RAG came, because it's definitely one of the biggest sim racing teams in terms of results, what they achieved, and especially because uh, Roman is the face. Roman is leading the team, and I think around motorsports everyone knows him.
Hmm.
So it was definitely an amazing feeling that I can tell that I can race in the team of Romain Grosjean, who was driving at that time. At that time, not anymore in
Hmm.
still in F1, but like still he's driving in IndyCar. He's gonna drive in IndyCar, and it absolutely makes me, also proud that I can be part of this team. That
So, what's it like driving for the man who walked through fire? What have you what have you learned?
uh, I think that's the what everyone and what I learned from that situation, uh, that never give up is real. It's even if you
Hmm.
are probably in your worst, that others would think, because I saw that crash live, and it was really horrible, and it was so amazing to see him like walking out from that thing. What happened there? And he is the true definition of never give up, and it actually gives a lot of inspiration and motivation, like
Yeah.
and still after that he's continuing racing on the highest, on professional level. I think it's amazing. So I really admire him, what is he doing, and he's being a great boss.
Yeah, I bet. I bet it must be. It's a very inspirational person to be racing with and racing for and racing under that name. How often does he get involved with the team on a more tactical level in terms of things like driver coaching or engineering or race strategy? Does he get involved in that sort of thing? Does he kind of take an active role in the team when you've got big races coming up?
When he has the time, he's definitely there. Especially like through the LMVS season, he was also racing himself, and he was being really active on preparation, and telling us about the setup, what he feels of it could be better. So his experience was definitely there. Uh, but like lately, he got a bit more busy around racing, and as there are only championships which only sim racers can do, it's like let's say that. He's uh, not that active on it, but I believe if there is something what we need help on or anything, I think he could be there. He can be there, and it makes us. I think it makes us uh, being really like feeling good about it. That we have someone who is being really good in real racing and is there with us if we need. So uh, yeah.
Incredible, incredible. Now, talking of real racing, it's a question I have to ask every sim racer. Any aspiration to move towards any real racing or try any real racing?
If I would have chance, I think I would do. But to be honest, I'm not really searching for opportunities like that. I'm not.
Mm,
Um, I can tell I'm not really searching opportunities. But probably what I think about it, that at one point, who started sim racing, uh, everyone probably started that because they wanted to be a real driver, a real racer. That was
mm.
kind of one of my dreams back then. That's what I was believing. If I being good in sim racing, then someone gonna come and tell, okay, drive for us in real car. So I think I would do it definitely if I would have chance. But also from the other view, sim racing is really like a thing. If you're doing well, uh, it can be really it can pay out a lot,
Mm.
in terms of, I can say that in terms of money and in everything. So I I don't know if in real racing, definitely you need to have good sponsors to being able to drive, and you need, I think, a big background also for it. And in sim racing, you have to have a great equipment, which is not cheap. I'm telling it's not cheap, but if you're doing it great, it's definitely paying you back. So I
Yeah.
think being in sim racing is really great.
It is strange that actually, if you consider like the portion of kind of like a pro drivers, sim racers versus real world drivers, actually most drivers that you see on TV, if it's not Formula One, are paying to race as opposed to being
Yeah.
paid, especially when you start looking at even GT3, certainly GT4.
Yeah.
It's that whereas in sim racing, there is a growing list of opportunities where you can make a salary that will at least support yourself, plus the opportunities for sponsorships and partnerships, which leads me on to another question, which is about the role of media engagement, streaming, etc. in your career. How big a part do you think that is, and how important do you think it is?
You mean like that to you being active like on social media, or like that
Social
part, or
media or streaming
yeah.
on Twitch or YouTube, all those sorts of activities that a lot of the pro esports drivers engage in quite a lot.
I think it's pretty important, even though I'm not that active on it. And in my case, I can tell it's like basically uh, lack of time, and I feel like that what I'm doing and focusing on the racing is really enough to being at the PC, the time.
Mm,
And I need some time from the PC. I think it would be really hard for me if doing it professionally, but also doing some streams next to it,
yeah.
because I feel it's, or even just to do on professional level racing in esports, it's really demanding to my mind,
Mm.
and it's not great for the mental health, I guess. And I just feel I just need some definitely more free time next to just racing itself.
So what do you like to do in your free time? What's your favorite place to be when you're not racing?
Um, if the weather is good, I like to go outside, of course. Going on a motorbike is one of the things
Oh, okay.
which is turning my brain off, and I can be really free, or also go for a drive with my car. But
There's a
doing
theme
some
here.
yeah, also like doing some kind of sport, which is like possible in the winter also. But when the weather is good, you just feel more motivated to start it, I guess. So being more active outside, more active physically, I think that's what I need, or what I love to do when I'm not at the PC, or being
Well,
with friends, or like yeah.
Well, talking of being outdoors and being physical, I'm now going to use that as a silky smooth segue to our questions. We've had a few questions that have been sent in ahead of this podcast. The first one, as always, is from our sponsor, Athertech, who were very excited when we told them that you were coming on the show. They sent in a few questions. I picked a couple. The first one, since it relates to what you were just describing, is how do you train up to a race physically? What do you physically do? Any physical training, exercises, stretches, etc., that you do before a race?
Probably stretching. It's if there is something, I try to not to have to say like pressure myself, or like being or doing stuff which is really like, let's say, making me tired, or like
Mm,
making me physically tired. I'm just trying to mostly stretch, maybe doing some push-ups, which is helping to, let's say, like wake me up a bit more. But that's mostly like there is not a specific routine for me what I do before races. I just try to stretch, try to be calm, and yeah, that's
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you don't want to be overexerting yourself before a race, given how mentally demanding it is. Okay,
yeah,
so I've got
definitely.
another question here from George Morgan, who joins us usually in our pre-show. Obviously, he's commentated on many of your races. He says, ranking your achievements in sim racing, would you say that 2023 currently holds its place at the top, given your results in ESL R1 over the years? And in your opinion, was becoming the ESL R1 major champion, its first, your greatest achievement to date so far?
Yes, George is saying, you are saying, George, completely right.
So
2023 was
yes and yes.
yes and yes and yes. Definitely, I think 2023 was my most successful season. Uh, Honestly, starting in ESL R1, the first season, the spring season, I was thinking being somewhere around the top 10 or top 12, getting into the final in the major on the major day
Mm,
would be a great achievement already. And already from Katowice, I started to feel that probably I have something more here, something more I can achieve. And winning that, considering that who I'm driving against, who were my opponents, the best drivers from iRacing, from ACC, from R Factor. We got drivers from F1 also. Uh,
mm.
you know, I think definitely that's like it's something which is still hard to process for me. That I did it. I'm trying. I'm on it. But definitely, like 2023 is absolutely. Even the second season was great. I guess I finished fifth, but I'm still happy with it. On Saudi, I finished in the Saudi event. I finished fourth in the Drivers' Championship, and what I did in Formula E also it makes me really proud because I think everyone knows who is in sim racing how strong Freddy is, and that just slightly, but I could beat him. That's one of the things what I'm really proud for from the last year.
Interesting. Feels like your the benchmarks and the goals that you set yourselves are very aligned to the respect you have for other drivers in the space and the competitions that they've won. I.e., if there's a particular driver who's done very well and you've watched their journey and you've watched their races, etc., that's the sort of thing that you set your goals on. It's like, okay, I want to be better than that guy, which feels like a really kind of respectful, healthy way to engage with this community.
Yeah, I think being on the same level or like similar level, like what, for example, Freddy did in Formula E, and even though finishing ahead of him, it's like I don't know, it's just a huge thing for me. Absolutely, it's amazing,
Yeah.
And from the whole ESL field drivers, I had great fights with James, uh, Joshua,
Mm,
Max Beneke, these guys, for
great
example, Daira
names.
from ACC, and
Yeah.
telling me this 2 years ago that I can fight, I'm gonna be able to fight against these guys in sim racing. I think I would have not believed it, but it's real. It's there, and I'm trying to be here, trying to stay on this position as long as possible, because it's amazing. Definitely, I enjoy it so much.
It sounds like you're really enjoying the moment, which I think is really refreshing. You're quite right to be like, okay, this is incredible. I'm just going to enjoy this, and I'm going to stay here for as long as I can. Okay, I've got one more question because we are short of time. I know you're very tight for time today, and I really appreciate you giving up time today to chat to us at Sim Sundays. So, Random Call Sign sent in a couple of questions. First one, I think you kind of answered. He asked about what the difference is in terms of the pressure when performing either at home for a final or at a LAN event with a live audience, which I think we've kind of covered. And then he also says, do you think that LAN sim racing esports has a future?
Yes. I don't know exactly like uh if it's really uh, sustainable, but I really hope that it's and I believe it's the way, because for example what we saw on ESL season, uh, we had views on the online races, but definitely on the LAN events it was 10 times more, at least, probably even
Mm,
more.
mm.
So I think definitely LAN events are the way to go, or I think that would be amazing, and I just hope that it can work in the future, because I think for F1 also, I think when we were there in Sweden, there were the F1 drivers also, and it was so great, like atmosphere, the whole thing. You could meet with the F1 esports driver, ESL drivers were there. So I prefer, hopefully LAN events is gonna work in the future.
Marcell, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really, really appreciate it. It sounds like you're incredibly, incredibly busy and you appreciate time away from the computer. So thank you for spending an additional hour talking to us. It's been absolutely fascinating. I can't believe that this time has flown by already. If people want to follow your progress and see where you're racing next, etc., where can they follow you online?
I'm there on Twitter, Instagram also. I have a YouTube channel which I'm not really updating, but I have it. And also Facebook. I don't know if someone's still using Facebook, but I have Facebook also, so they can find me there.
Great. Marcell, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. I was enjoying a lot. Thank you.